Yesterday, I had a surgery. Now, I might be sounding a little bit weird right now, and that's because I got, well, a very common surgery, one that a lot of people watching right now are going to have to get one themselves. That would be the removal of my wisdom teeth. I don't typically do these story type videos where I just really talk about what's going on with me, but I haven't been uploading, so I thought might as well do that. Maybe some people will like it. I'm also going to play TDS in the background just so there's something to watch. But yeah, back to what I was saying. A lot of people are going to have to get their wisdom teeth removed. Yesterday so happened to be my day. Now, how do you know if you need to get your wisdom teeth removed? Well, there's two ways to find out. You either take an x-ray or you find out when you get an infection. I myself, I got an x-ray, I got my teeth checked out, and the results showed, well, my wisdom teeth weren't growing in a good way. Those teeth are the last set of teeth that comes out of your mouth. They grow around the time you're 17, 18, 19. Sometimes they never even grow. But the biggest risk when it comes to your wisdom teeth is if they grow sideways. So your teeth kind of, grow like that. The wisdom teeth are supposed to be the last set of teeth that come out on the top and bottom. So it's a very bad diagram, but that's something like how it's supposed to go. What happens way too often, though, is they start growing like this, where they're facing too far inwards, and if they try to grow as normal, they'd hit the other teeth, which leaves this little bit of room right here, and that little gap is the most dangerous part. When you're eating your food, let me just draw a terrible burger. You're eating your food, the food gets stuck in between your teeth, here and here. That's why you brush your teeth. If the food gets here, though, which is caused by your teeth growing in a weird way, that part can't be brushed. And what starts to happen is bacteria starts to grow in this spot. So let's just draw some bacteria. And then that bacteria develops into an infection, which really hurts. And then you have to get your wisdom teeth removed anyways and deal with an infection at the same time. And that was kind of the case with me. My teeth were growing at an angle that wouldn't let them grow properly. Therefore, I had to get the surgery. You want to know the statistics for this, by the way? 85% of people will need to undergo some kind of removal of their wisdom teeth. So hey, if you're watching and you haven't gotten your wisdom teeth removed, well, you're about to have to go through something similar to what I did. And you can expect it by the time you're around 17, 18, sometimes in your 20s. But this is definitely no easy procedure. You don't just show up to the dentist, they pull them out, and you're done. A lot of the times it's more complicated than that. Let me get my paint back open. So the top teeth usually can be at like a slight angle, meaning what the doctors do is they just grab the tooth and just push it out. These teeth, you can't push them out. It's not possible. So what doctors have to do is they have to break the bottom teeth and then take out the pieces. And you can imagine that part is not very exciting. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to the beginning. During checkup, they give you a few options. One of those is Xanax. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called at least. And that is anxiety medication. A lot of people, obviously, would be terrified of having their bones split apart and ripped out of their mouth. It's a really intense surgery, which I was awake for, by the way, so you get to really hear the details. Don't worry, it's not too terrible. But yeah, Xanax is one of the options you have to pick in advance before the surgery if you want to be, relaxed. And the other one is IV sedation. Pretty sure that stands for intravenous sedation, which means you literally get a shot like a day before. And what that leads to is you actually get put to sleep. So they quite literally give you the option to take your surgery while you're awake or while you're asleep. Now, while the option might seem pretty obvious, who wants to be awake for such a gruesome process? Well, the incentive is the fact that you'd have to pay hundreds more dollars if you want to get the sedation. And honestly, personally, myself, at this moment, I would suggest it's not that necessary. People only really take it if they have like a lot of anxiety, but for that, you can just take the Xanax, which is magnitudes of times cheaper. And it solves basically the same problem. I don't know if I mentioned, but I might be sounding weird. And of course, my cheeks are swollen right now. That's just one of the effects of getting your wisdom teeth out. But yeah, being the absolute beast that I am, I settled with a different option, which was nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a gas that they give you just before they start injecting you with their needles. The point of the gas is to, reduce pain even further. You still have to pay extra for the gas, but it's not quite as much as IV sedation. And if you're one of the people who is going to get their wisdom teeth removed, which is like 85% of people, so you probably will, I would honestly recommend the gas. Some people say it relaxes them. For me, it was mainly just a full body numbing sensation. It's an extremely strange sensation. They put like this mask around your nose and you just have to breathe in. And at first you don't notice anything, but then your whole body just like falls asleep. You just suddenly can't feel your arms, legs, your back. It's a really interesting sensation. Again, the point of the gas is to reduce pain. Some people, though, it makes them dizzy. It makes things, a little wacky. For me personally, it just made my whole body feel like I was floating on a cloud. And that was before the worst part of the surgery, which was the needles. Believe it or not, the worst part of getting your teeth removed wasn't actually getting the teeth removed. It was getting the injections, the anesthetic. They first rub around the area with some sort of gel. That is really strange because it just numbs up everything. You basically can't feel your tongue, can't feel your mouth. It's not a very pleasant sensation, but they do that before injecting the needles because, boy, I'll tell you, those needles are painful. This is the first slightly graphic part that I'm going to be explaining of this surgery. But what they do is after they give you the gas and they numb up your mouth, they grab these anesthetic needles and then they stab them into your gums, and you can feel the needle go all the way through your gum and hit the back of your tooth. And that part just sucks because they start injecting it and it's painful. It's like getting a shot. Nobody likes getting a shot. It doesn't feel good. And it's certainly no better when it's happening inside your mouth. And they have to give you like 5 of them. So yeah, I pretty clearly remember them just stabbing my gums with these needles, injecting the anesthetic. The injection was painful, but afterwards, I mean, it worked. I felt nothing, with the exception of something coming up later. That'll save for a bit later because it wasn't very fun. But after they inject you, they start asking you questions like, does your lower lip feel numb? The reason for that is because the nerves that run through your lower lip are also responsible for the pain you'd feel if you were to feel any. So if your lower lip starts tingling and goes completely numb, or rather I should say, when it starts feeling like your tongue, because your tongue is going to be the first thing that just goes really tingly and numb. And when your lip starts feeling like that, then you know that anesthesia is working, which is absolutely fantastic because that means you are not going to feel any pain. For me personally, they went left to right, so they pulled out my left top tooth first. And that honestly was the worst tooth to pull out because they didn't put enough anesthetic on that tooth. So I don't even know what happened, but I felt a tool on the side or the back of my tooth somewhere. It was clamping down my tooth and it was just being pulled with so much force. And as it starts getting pulled more and more, it feels like one side, like the front of the tooth, starts coming out first. And at that moment, it gets painful. Like just out of nowhere, as this tooth is being pulled, I'm like, and the doctor stopped pulling it. And they give me another quick injection on top. And yeah, you know that I don't like these injections. So that one hurt, but it's actually a good thing if an injection like that hurts because that means they're injecting it in a part that still feels pain. That just means they're numbing down the part that should be numbed down, the correct place. So that part was all fine and dandy. They pulled that tooth out. You just feel the pressure stop. You can't really tell that there's a tooth missing. They just tell you that it's out and you're like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't too bad. But remember how I said the top teeth, they can just kind of push out in one piece? The bottom ones, at least for me, those were different. I still have the lines from before where I show that they have to be broken. And this is what they do. So they take a tool. They take a little tool that, I don't know, I would assume looks something like this, with a little tip at the end, like a drill. And this thing spins at like 100,000 rotations per minute. So you basically got this thing spinning like the speed of sound, and they just unleash this thing on your tooth. They start drilling into it, and your tooth burns. And I'm not talking like in terms of pain it burns, I'm talking fire. The tooth starts to produce real smoke. As this thing's spinning at 100,000 rotations per minute, it just comes in contact with it. It smells terrible because it's a burning bone, the smoke of which goes directly into your nose because, well, that's where you're breathing through. Remember, you still have the mask if you opt in for nitrous oxide. So excuse me while I'm focusing on the tank here, just because this thing, I don't really want to die to. It's like the scariest wave. I know I'm trying to explain the story, but still playing a game in the background. Can't help but focus on it a little bit. There you go, back to the diagram. Yeah, so the smoke just comes out. You're inhaling your burnt tooth, but you feel nothing, which is really strange because you can hear this drill just like zzz. Oh no, that's a terrible impression. But what that does, I'm assuming what it does is it creates a divot in your tooth. So it creates a gap from which point I don't know what kind of abomination of a tool they use. I would guess it looks something like this. They just have a spike hammer kind of thing where they jam it in there and then they just push. Because what happens next is they push on it and the tooth literally, you hear it crack like, and then it splits. You don't feel any pain while this is happening, but you feel a ton of pressure. Like your whole entire head is just being pushed into that one spot. So yeah, that's terrible. But after that, they take out the pieces and then they start working on the other side. So they get over to this right tooth. This one, same deal as this one. I asked them for anesthetic. I'm just like, more anesthetic on the top. And they're like, yeah, we will. Same spot as it hurt on the other tooth, which is an absolutely great thing to hear because that means I will no longer have to go like, to let them know that I'm feeling pain because I won't feel any pain to begin with. So they once again get their clamp of nightmares or whatever thing they used in order to pull out your tooth. They start pulling it out and it starts to hurt. And you know what I'm thinking? Like, they just gave me anesthetic. Why is it hurting like almost like the last tooth? So I start going like, but at that point the tooth is already out. So it's like, you know, there's nothing to do about it. It stops hurting like a few seconds after. Bottom tooth, same deal. They have to drill this one for quite a while because they couldn't get this one to break. So they used their whatever tooth splitting tool that was supposed to break this apart, and they just couldn't get it. So I felt a ton of pressure there. Nothing happened. So they had to drill this one multiple times over, but they ripped it out, and then they started stitching up the parts where the teeth were missing. So they had, well, I couldn't really feel the stitches, but I felt the string going on my lip. So I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, my lip right here, and then the string as they were tying it up, it was like scraping against my lip. Oh, it was not fun. But apparently I have biodegradable stitching in there, so that means that as the gap heals where the tooth used to be, so you can now think of this as like a little gap, the gum is now over it and it's stitched up, so as this heals the stitches will degrade away, which in the end means I don't have to, you know, be left with gaping holes in my mouth. Fellow YouTuber Corso, I mean, I talked to him about this because he got his own wisdom teeth removed and he settled for the IV sedation, so he was actually put to sleep. That's why he had an entertaining video to make, because he was quite literally high. I myself was not drugged up and put to sleep. Oh, the recovery process, it wasn't really silly. In fact, the recovery process is what's usually the worst for people. This might sound a little gross, but it's because of blood. Your mouth is going to be bleeding for hours. I'm talking, like, for me, it went on for until the night. I got my teeth removed in the morning, like at 11 a.m. That's when I came in. So I probably got them removed closer to 11:30, but that bleeding went on to like 1 a.m. And even after I went to sleep, it was still bleeding. So you have to sleep on your back, which isn't convenient because, you know, usually people sleep on their side or their stomach, but you can't do that because you need to sleep on your back since that reduces the amount of bleeding. It also reduces the amount of swelling, which is currently what's happening to me. Swelling is usually not terrible on the first day, but on the second, third, fourth, yeah, your mouth is going to feel like a balloon. I have very chubby cheeks right now. I'm like a baby. There's also restrictions on what you can eat. Apparently, you can't drink out of a straw either because that'll apply pressure to, well, you know, your teeth, which are covered up. So swallowing is also not exactly easy because you have to like do it with your mouth open, or at least I'm doing it with my mouth open, and I kind of have to like use my tongue to swallow. And what I'm most afraid of is that I'm gonna restart the bleeding. Like, I'm gonna eat something, it's gonna, I don't know, contact my, or rather the part where the tooth used to be in a way that damages the blood clot, and suddenly the blood's back, and I have to deal with it for another 16 hours. They give you little, like, fabric to put there. I think it's called a gauze. And yeah, you just have to sit there with these almost like cotton balls in your mouth for hours. You have to replace them. And if you run out, you have to use wet tea bags. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. I like woke up and the bleeding stopped, but my pillow was not happy. My pillow was stained red because there was bleeding going on while I was asleep. So after a total of 16 hours of bleeding, now it's just I have chubby cheeks and my jaw is kind of cramping up. So I do have to take some ibuprofen, classic painkillers, just to make sure that it's not hurting. And when it comes to eating, all I've really been able to eat like this morning was mashed potatoes. Yesterday it wasn't even that. It was like a milkshake. And you can't drink the milkshakes through a straw, so I had to drink it just like, out of the cup. And for the next few days, well, today, actually, I should mention, I was able to eat a hot dog, which I'm pretty happy about because, it's solid food. Not everybody can eat solid food on day two. Some people have to go multiple days with just the softest of soft. Mashed potatoes, milkshake, just things that really you can just swallow as it enters your mouth. Here I am on the final wave. I guess that's pretty convenient to conclude the story. They give you like this paper once you're done that it has all the instructions on it. So it's not like you're just left on your own to figure out what you're doing after you get your teeth extracted. But yeah, considering the fact that 85% of people are going to have to go through the same exact thing, that means I'm wishing y'all a lot of luck. I suggest the gas. Don't really suggest the IV sedation unless you're like extremely paranoid. But yeah, that's it. We win. I wish the ones who have to get this luck. And because this thing costed $2,000, you should like, subscribe, and use Star Goody. Goodbye.